The pursuit of absolute control over intelligence has a paradoxical effect. The more a ruler tightens their grip, the less they truly know. History is littered with examples of regimes that, in their obsession with rooting out internal threats, have blinded themselves to the dangers lurking beyond their borders. Nowhere is this more evident than in Stalin's Soviet Union, where paranoia consumed the very intelligence apparatus designed to protect the state, leaving it defenseless when the greatest threat of all finally arrived. In 1936, Stalin sat atop a rising empire, a modern industrial colossus built on forced labor and fear, but power to him was never secure. He saw enemies in every shadow, betrayal in every whisper. His most dangerous foes, he believed, were not foreign adversaries, but the men who knew too much, his own military strategists and intelligence officers. The Soviet intelligence machine, once among the most sophisticated in the world, became the target of his paranoia. In the dark corridors of Lubyanka, the NKVD carried out his will with ruthless efficiency. Officers vanished overnight, their names erased, their families left in terror. The purge had begun, and with it, Stalin ensured that those who remained learned a brutal lesson. Truth was irrelevant, only survival mattered. As the Great Purge tore through the ranks, Soviet intelligence ceased to function as an instrument of insight and became a tool of self-preservation. Spies embedded across Europe and Asia still sent reports of looming dangers, none more pressing than the growing threat of Nazi Germany. But their warnings fell on deaf ears. Stalin's machine ran not on intelligence but on obedience, and those who dared contradict the leader's view did not live long enough to repeat their mistake. The purge did not merely dismantle Soviet intelligence, it rewired it, replacing analysis with fabrication, vigilance with submission. Stalin had achieved what he wanted, absolute control, but in doing so, he had blinded himself to the world beyond his walls. By 1941, as Hitler prepared to unleash Operation Barbarossa, the warnings from Soviet spies became desperate. The invasion was coming. The Wehrmacht was mobilizing. Hitler would betray the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. The evidence was overwhelming. Yet Stalin, having spent years executing those who challenged him, no longer trusted his own intelligence network. He dismissed the reports as misinformation, convinced they were part of a ploy to manipulate him. And so, when German tanks rolled across the Soviet border, the Red Army was unprepared, its defenses in disarray. The price of Stalin's paranoia was paid in blood. Millions of Soviet soldiers and civilians perished in the opening months of the war. The intelligence network that could have foreseen the disaster had been hollowed out, reduced to nothing but fear and silence. Stalin had secured his power, but in doing so, he had doomed his empire to suffer the consequences of its own blindness.